Hi everybody, it is Sam again from the GSLAC STEM team. STEM, of course, standing for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. We've got another STEM activity video for you guys this week. Today's video is going to be all about oil and water and the reasons why they don't mix. We're going to actually use those properties to make our own density lava lamp. So, first let's talk about what you will need for this experiment. You're going to want some water, a glass with some water. You're going to want some oil. You're going to want an antacid tablet. And optionally, but this adds a lot, you're going to want some food coloring. So, first things first, I'm going to drop in some food coloring into our water. I'm going to do green. It's best to use colors that are pretty different from the yellow of the oil. Be careful when you're using the food coloring as it can stain clothes and fabric. So, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little swirl. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour in my oil. And I want you to watch as I pour in the oil. You probably know already that oil and water do not mix. Today we're going to talk a little bit about why they don't mix. What properties they have. So, you can see pretty easily that we have two layers that have formed. We've got the green layer, which is the water, and the yellow layer, which is the oil. So the two reasons that oil and water don't mix is, number one, they have different densities. Density is a property of a material that is kind of similar to weight. It is actually equal to the mass of an object divided by the volume, so the space it takes up. And density is a good way to tell if something sinks or floats. So if something is more dense, it's going to sink in something that is less dense. Think about throwing a rock into a pond. A rock is going to be more dense than the water of the pond, and it's going to sink. So obviously, because our oil is floating on top of the water, it is less dense than the water. Water is more dense. The second reason oil and water don't mix actually has to do with the polarity of the two substances. If you remember when we were talking about charges in static electricity, water, if you remember, was attracted to our charged balloon. That's because water is polar. It actually has charges to it. On a water molecule, there's a more positive and a more negative end to that molecule. In oil, we have what's called non-polar, which means it doesn't really have a charge. Polar things, like water, like to act together, interact with other polar things. Non-polar things and polar things don't really interact. That is the other reason why we don't see mixing between the two. Now, the cool thing is we can, of course, take advantage of this separation by making a lava lamp. And we're going to actually use an antacid tablet to do that. Antacid actually has chemicals very similar to baking soda and vinegar inside of them, except they're both in solid forms. And when they react with water, when they get in water, those chemicals are able to mix, and we see that CO2 reaction we talked about a couple weeks ago. So, once you've got your antacid tablet, I would break it up into probably fourths. You're just going to take a piece of that, drop it into your water, and you can see we have a nice bubbly lava lamp happening. So you can see what's going on here is those CO2 bubbles are rising up out of the water. They're bringing some of that water with it to the top. Then as that water gets to the top, since it is more dense and doesn't mix with that oil, it sinks back down to the bottom. Add another piece in there here in a second. We'll even add in, just see what this does. It's a good idea to put your food coloring in before you put the oil in, because you can see your food coloring stays on the top. Another thing you can do to make this interesting is if it is dark, if it is nighttime or you have a dark room, you can put your phone flashlight underneath the bottom of it and you can light up your oil, water, a lava lamp, just like a real lava lamp. Alright guys, that is the science of why oil and water don't mix and some cool things you can do with it. If you like science, technology, engineering, and math activities and are thinking about trying out an experiment on your own, maybe think about entering into our virtual STEM fair we have going on this summer. You can check out more details on our Facebook page. I hope you learned a little bit, hope you had fun, and I hope you guys keep scouting.